Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today we're going to have a look at the entries from a past group build. The topic was fictional nations, where the entries were to represent a fictional nation created by the submitter. An interesting idea indeed. This was the one previous to the Winter Tidings group build, the video for which I've just put up as well. Unfortunately, I totally dropped the ball on getting this video out, but it's here now, so I apologise for that, and I hope you enjoy the entries. First up, we have Archmagus Dominus Nevaeron, who has submitted 3 entries, all relating to his fictional nation of the Grand Duchy of Marinanth? Marinanth? I'm not sure on the pronunciation. Obviously! You can see the flag on screen now, and a coat of arms. Nevaeron clearly went to a lot of effort here, so this is going to be a bit long, but I feel like it's worth it. The Grand Duchy of Marinanth is an absolute monarchy, currently ruled by Duke Dominus VII of House Sadrakovan. With a population of 600,000, it's located in Eastern Europe. Situated in the Merina River Valley, a tributary of the Vistula Basin, from which it derives its name, has mountains in the south. North, east and west borders have dense woodland, marshes and swampland surrounding it, which are nearly impassable, providing a natural defence which has been well exploited through the duchy's history by its residents. The rest of the landscape is hilly plains cut in half by the Marina River, interspersed with woodland in between the plains and several small lakes. The official language is Marinethian, a dialect of Old Slavic, written in the Latin alphabet. Some notable natural and man-made landmarks are the Castle of Kun, Cathedral Basilica of Kun, the Marina Outcrop, and the Dragavon Monastery. Chief industries are luxury spirits, gemstones of the garnet variety, silver, and small arms. The currency is the Marinethian talar, comprised of 100 kopecks. The usual exchange rate to the euro is 1 euro equals 2 talars. Here's a bit of a history. Marinanth is seen as a neutral country that hasn't expanded much throughout its history, and has thwarted most attempts at conquering it by utilising the terrain surrounding the duchy. Due to the natural defences it possesses, the long-term stereotype of Marinanth and its people remained that of a brutal and reclusive marshman fiercely defendant of their territory. This reputation stems from the historical defenders of Marinanth, where it is said few invaders have ever managed to breach the treacherous wetlands and dense forests surrounding the duchy, and if they did, they were beaten down quickly. However, this is far from the actual truth. While Marinethians have and will defend their land using any and all means necessary, they have good relations with their neighbours, for the most part, and Marinethian mercenary companies were known to fight in several wars that impacted the history of Europe. The duchy only fell to invaders during World War II's initial stages. However, the Nazi occupiers soon found themselves being picked off and brutally murdered by Marinethian partisans, using means that some historians describe as mafia methods of intimidation. The most surprising fact of Marinethian history is that despite being in the Eastern Bloc, it never had a regime change, and remained a monarchy surrounded by socialist regimes throughout the Cold War. Since the mid-1960s, the country's richness in mineral resources and small size attracted the interests of foreign capital, and several failed coup attempts were allegedly financed by foreign corporations and politicians attempting to use private military companies to take over and install a puppet government in order to exploit its mineral wealth. The last coup attempt happened in 2014, with the conflict ending before it could even begin as the Marinethian Military ambushed and arrested the mercenary company as they entered the country, confiscating all of their equipment. That brings us to the military. It's estimated that around 10% of the population is actively serving in the Marinethian Self-Defense Force, MSDF. Service in the modern MSDF is voluntary, and conscription has been abolished since 1980. Mandatory draft is called upon only in times of war. A notable unit is the Marinethian Rangers, a special forces unit trained in guerrilla combat. The modern MSDF is a strictly defense force, and has not participated in any international missions or joint exercises. The reserves are allowed to keep their rifles and ammo, akin to Switzerland. Civilian firearm ownage is also widespread and encouraged. The Marinethian Military employs vehicles from both the east and west. It has 50 Stridsvagn 103 tanks, purchased after Sweden retired them, They've been given the local designation MTS-103, Marinethian Tank Swedish 103. It also employs various other ground vehicles, including improvised off-roaders and amphibious vehicles. The Air Force consists primarily of Mi-24 gunships and Mi-8 utility helicopters. It also possesses a few Mig-21 Interceptors and C-27J Spartan transport planes. It also operates historic World War II aircraft captured from Nazi Germany for historical preservation and display in air shows. Amongst this historical fleet is a flyable Me-163 Comet. Despite being a landlocked country, Marinanth possesses a token navy operating within the Marina River. Its primary purpose is thwarting smuggling operations and SAR missions. Marinanth produces some of its own small arms, most notably the domestically designed MA-57 personal defense weapon and a copy of the VSS integrally suppressed sniper rifle, designated MLV-9. Other small arms include weapons from both Warsaw Pact and NATO countries. Now, let's check out the models. This diorama displays a bushcraft shelter/outpost of the famed Marinethian Rangers. Figures are from Italy's Soviet Spetsnaz, though the figures more resemble VDV, 1/72nd scale figure set. Buildings in the diorama are made from matchsticks, wooden fruit crates, and cardstock. Terrain is made of cut-up thuja branches, sawdust, and sticks. The mushrooms are made from matches and cardstock. The moss is made from a kitchen sponge, and the stowage bits are from academy sets. The shelter has an interior comprising of a wood-burning stove, a cot, and some more stowage. The Marinethian Rangers are the main special forces unit within the MSDF, trained in guerrilla warfare, informally known as the Leshy, a nickname stemming from a woodland spirit in Slavic mythology. In addition to combat training, the Rangers are also given a thorough course of survival in the wild and bushcraft training. Recruits undergo a week-long wilderness survival course, which requires the Ranger to be completely self-sufficient and make the most use of their equipment and training to survive. This course is repeated 4 times a year, once per season. At the start, a Ranger is given only his standard issue kit and a single 24-hour food ration. From then until the end of the course, they're on their own. The Rangers have established bushcraft shelters throughout the Marinethian border, varying in size and type. In addition to this, they also set up and maintain hidden stone roads within the marshes and swamps of Marinanth, identical to the hidden roads known as Kolgrinda, found in the Lithuanian Republic. During peacetime, Rangers reinforce the border guards and deal with the elimination of smuggling operations. The standard issue weapons in the Ranger arsenal are as follows: AK series rifles, Dragunov/MLV-9 sniper rifles, Stinger anti-air missiles, RPG-7 rocket-propelled grenade launchers, Glock series pistols, combat knives, and various grenades and anti-personnel mines. A Ranger's survival kit typically consists of the following: a small hatchet, multi-tool, magnesium fire rod, fishing kit, and a survival water filter. Other equipment typically used by Rangers includes binoculars and thermal vision goggles. Their uniforms consist of various woodland and winter camouflage patterns, but all have the same black beret with a bear cockade. The second entry from Nevaeron is another Marinethian Ranger outpost. The outposts of the Marinethian Rangers are rarely alike, with each having a different purpose and layout. This one also serves as a staging area where the MSDF deploys some heavy equipment, either a tank, an artillery piece, or a heavier anti-air measure than the handheld AA missile launchers of the Rangers. This diorama uses the same techniques as the first, in addition to foam hills and scrap linen cloth for the bedding inside the shelter. Figures are from the same Italy 72nd scale Soviet Spetsnaz figure set. Nevaeron's third entry is a Mig-21 Mf Interceptor using the 72nd scale Edward kit. The Marinethian Self-Defense Air Force, MSDAF, has 2 squadrons of 12 Soviet jets each, and though they may appear outdated by some standards, Marinethian pilots have used them in conflicts well into the 21st century. The first MiG-21s reached Marinanth in 1970 to replace the Duchy's Focke-Wulf 190 fleet. They were deployed in the second coup attempt in 1976, where they intercepted and shot down enemy supply planes and combat aircraft under the control of a PMC hired by an employer who remains unknown to this day. The Duchy has expressed interest in replacing these planes, and is allegedly in talks with Mig and Dassault for possible replacements. So that was a lot, and I hope my reading did it justice. Clearly, a lot of good world building has been done here. Awesome work. Spanish Boy Models created a nation called Domania. This may be the incorrect pronunciation again, but you know that pronunciation is not my strong suit, so let's move on. Spanish Boy's first entry is a ZIS-9 field gun belonging to the army of the SVR. The SVR was created during the Domanian Civil War by those loyal to Borshok Omgolov, and fought alongside the Domanian army, anarchists, and nationalists. Unlike the Domanian Omgolovnists, it was a fully communist group, starting off as a ragtag group of civilians, but growing into a respectable fighting force for the time. After the Civil War, they were respected so much by the new Domanian government that the SVR was given its own province. Not quite a free state, but retaining its own Duma-style government and National Guard. Its army during the Civil War was about 5,889 strong, possessing 300 tanks and 68 artillery guns. They were so close, they just needed one more. One of the artillery guns they had is the one that Spanish Boy built for the group build. The ZIS-9, nicknamed by the SVR fighters as the Destroyer. The second entry is a Doman Panther, depicted circa 1944. The kit is in 72nd scale from Lindbergh. This is the second Panther captured by the Doman partisans, and one of the only Panthers in running order. It's designated the Panther 5 ZIS-20 Mark III, due to the replacement of its 75mm KWK-42 with a Soviet ZIS-20. This particular tank was nicknamed Deserter, referring to its origins in the German army. The tank was an important weapon to the Doman cause, and unlike its brother, which was destroyed in Budapest, lasted past World War II and throughout the Cold War. It still runs today, operated in a ceremonial role by the police force, due to it being obsolete as a weapon of war. While we look at the tank, I'll read a bit more about the Doman People's Republic, which is located in Eastern Europe. The language is Domanian, the currency is Donakis, or Donakis. The population is 13,587,967, the capital and largest city is Omgolovigrad. Some places to visit are the Sil River, the old Transylvanian castles, the People's Parliament, Omgolov's old home and village, which is a Cyrillic word that I'm not going to pretend that I can even read, so let's hear about the military. The army was founded in 1944 and made up of 45,987 men, armed mostly with what the Soviet army had at the time, AK-47s and BTRs, etc. The Air Force, founded in 1948, originally composed of old Polikrapov I-153s and I-16s, later replaced by MiG-15s, Su-27s, and the locally produced PK-37 and PK-589. The tank force was equivalent to the Soviet tank force with some old modified Panzer IVs and one Panther. Note that the Navy, Airborne Infantry, and Police Force were created in the 60s and 70s when the new iteration of Domania was founded, but this profile is for the original nation that preceded this change. The Doman People's Republic was a country founded by partisans and the ethnic Doman people who wanted a free nation in Eastern Europe, so after World War II, and heavy fighting against the Hungarians, they were given a nation by their leader, Markov Omgolov, who ruled until his death in 1994, the saddest day in the country's history. Its government was similar to Tito's Yugoslavia, but slightly freer, with a functioning justice system and free elections for governors, though these governors were still subordinate to the head of state. The nation lasted from 1944 to 1968, when it was given more land and the name changed to the Republic of Domania. The flag was also changed to a new design. This is another entry with a lot of good world building going on. The creativity shown here is really awesome. Graf Pudding's entry is the fictional nation of Austspitz. Here's a bit of a history. After the collapse of the Hanseatic League, the island of Austspitz was absorbed by the Kingdom of Denmark. It served the Danish Navy as a maritime base and trade hub for a long time, right until the Danish-Prussian War. Although the island had pledged for independence in the following peace treaty, it was split in half by Prussia and Denmark. Close to the end of the Great War, a sailors' mutiny broke out in the Suderhaven seaport, which spread fast to all parts of the German-controlled side and quickly turned into a civil war. Denmark, seeing its chance, assembled a peacekeeping force and annexed the rest of the island, unifying it under the Kingdom of Denmark once again. The unification was difficult to uphold, however, because the majority of its inhabitants were of German heritage. In the Second World War, the Germans occupied the island after Operation Weserübung. I can't read German. They established an air force base on the west tip of the island. After the end of the war in Europe, a socialist uprising by the German Marxist underground took place, and the population saw a new chance for independence, by aligning with the Soviet Union in the peace treaty, gaining their first true independence in 1949. During the Cold War, the now called Socialist Republic East Tip served as an important ally in the Warsaw Pact by providing an important air force and submarine hub for the Soviets and its allies. Due to a small population, their main contribute to the Soviet war strategy were the bases and an elite air force. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the small island left the Warsaw Pact and remains an independent republic to this day, with good ties to the European Union. Although not joining the EU, it acquired special trade status and has open borders to the EU states and serves as an important trade hub for the Balkans and is in consideration to join NATO. Denmark still lays claim to the island, but a referendum in 2001 resulted in a clear path as an independent nation for the foreseeable future. Graf Pudding's first entry is the Su-27 flanker of the Ostspitzen Air Force, using the 144th scale kit by Revell. 2 years after the introduction of Sukhoi's new plane, the relatively new Socialist Republic of Austspitz acquired 3 whole squadrons of this state-of-the-art fighter. Even after the collapse of the Eastern Bloc, the Republic still operates 1 squadron to this very day. But they are in talks to replace them with F-35s in the near future, but this acquisition remains improbable. I do quite like the red detailing thingies, or highlights, or whatever you might call the red bits on this plane. It looks really cool. Graf Pudding's second entry is an Ostspitzen Leopard 2A5NL, using the Revell 72nd scale kit. In 2015, the small island nation finally realised that its old tank force of T-55 and T-62 tanks was entirely outdated. After a failed attempt in the late 90s to acquire T-90s from Russia, the Defence Ministry approved the purchase of 24 Leopard 2A5NLs from the Netherlands. However, due to budget constraints, this order was downsized to 15 in 2016, but 6 more are expected to arrive by 2022. These will form the armoured core of the Republic for the foreseeable future. Again, very well done. Unlike the other 3 entrants, Lutanton has submitted a nation belonging to an entirely fictional world of his own creation, focusing on the continent of Trinai, I'm not sure how we pronounce this. I'm going with Trinai, and its various warring inhabitants. We've been looking at the map for the last however long, and here's the flag. The population is 20 million, the currency is the Sokol, or Sokol, and 25 Sokol is worth €1. The spoken language is Menshuain, which is similar to Sellenic, and the capital city is Menshuir. The political system is a constitutional monarchy, and the royal family is the Menshuarian dynasty. Allies are the Sellenic Republic, enemies are the Polonian Union, and there are no relations with Norcia. The Menshuain Empire was created after the end of various religious extremist insurgencies. From then on, it became industrialized and very advanced for its time, owing to its rich natural resources. The Menshuain Empire is a natural fortress, fortified by mountains everywhere except for its south. That's the main reason why the Menshuain Empire is allies with the Sellenic Republic. But another reason is that the Sellenians are a naval and trading superpower, complementing the Menshuain's land and industrial supremacy. It's basically a symbiotic state where Menshuia provides resources and defends the Silk Corridor, and Selenia trades those resources across the oceans and aids Menshuia with its immense navy. Menshuain's main role in the First Trinian War was to take the Silk Corridor from the Polonian Union and give the Sellenic Republic access to the No Man's Sea. The main Menshuain objective in future wars is to fight off Polonian troops in the Silk Corridor, giving Sellenic Republic transports time to send equipment to their ports at No Man's Sea. They also want some of that juicy lion oil. Lion? Lillian? I'm not sure how to say that either. If anybody's surprised by that now, I don't know what to say. Anyway, Menshuain doctrine favours small elite units, especially trained to fight in the mountains. This is why most of the armoured force consists of smaller vehicles, and the air force is mostly helicopters, which are more suited for mountain combat than planes. Since the Silk Corridor is a vast desert, these smaller units are mostly reserved for the defence of the fatherland, while an offensive force is built up. The Lion Confederation, I'm deciding it's pronounced Lion. This is a confederation of tiny provinces which used to constantly fight because they've hated each other and sought control over the vast amounts of high-quality crude oil. After the experiences of the First Trinian War, the tiny provinces decided to try and unite and start trading the oil to become rich. Very quickly, this confederation became unstable, because they couldn't decide on how to split either the oil or the money. The next war will most likely start with the confederation splitting. Then everyone will smell blood and become thirsty for oil. If it wasn't for the Silk Corridor, the Polonian Union would certainly win the next war for oil. However, with the Menshuain alliance, it seems unlikely that the Polonian Union will retain its holdings in the No Man's Sea, with its navy and air force being far weaker than that of Salonika. There might even be a Menshuain invasion via landings on the Lion Peninsula or along the coast. The models you've been seeing are the Menshuain elite units of the First Trinian War. You can see a half-track called the Sharomang Bis, or Bis. Next to that you can see a destroyed turret of the Polonian-made KER-1 76. The models used here were Zvezda 72nd scale Panzer Grenadiers in Anorax, an Italeri 72nd scale SDKFZ 251 Ausführung C, a Tamiya 35th scale 50 cal box, the hatch from a 76th scale Airfix Cromwell, and an unknown 72nd scale KV-1 turret, which Lutanton got from a friend. Okay, so that's all of the entries in this group build. There certainly was a lot of me talking, reading about these fictitious nations, and I'm not sorry. I found it quite interesting, and I didn't want to edit down anybody's work, because clearly they put a good bit of effort and thought into this stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed it. And once again, I apologise for taking so very long in making this video. It was a bit of a different topic for a group build, and I do encourage people to come up with stories and backgrounds for their builds, and in this case that was really done, and done well. Some very good stories were created. Excellent. There will be another group build starting soon, so check Discord for details on that one. The link is of course in the description below, and perhaps we'll see you there. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and as always, I shall return soon. So until then, be excellent to each other, have a nice day, and thanks for watching. Farewell.